Hello, everyone. I'm Carmen Bowman. It's my distinct pleasure to get to work with all of you in Wyoming over these 3 years. And we're soon into year 3. And we always want to thank your survey agency for saying yes to this grant years ago now, a lot of years ago, because we had to pause during COVID. But here you are, and here we are. And today, we turn our attention to the people who work in the nursing homes. And notice I didn't say staff. I'd love for you to think about while I'm talking, what does the word staff mean? And what does the word staff do for the culture? Is it positive, negative? Is it words of home and normal or not? But anyway, we're going to focus on the people who work in these homes. And you know what? It's been a 30-year thing, way before COVID, that if you change institutional culture, guess what? Not only do people want to live there, and you tend to be full, and you tend to make money because of it, and not only do you save money because individualized care is more efficient care, and to give people what they want to eat when they want to eat it saves money. I could go on, but we've also seen in the research that people tend to want to work in a non-institutional normal culture. So some of the pioneering nursing homes way back when saw these kinds of numbers with their turnover. So one home in Seattle, turnover down 50%, half to 22% in 5 years. Big Fork Valley, one of our first households, 52 down to 13% in only 2 years. Meadowlark Hills in Kansas, 80% turnover to 30 in 7 years. And Fairport Baptist in New York, I don't have over what time span, but experienced 25% decreased turnover. So, turnover is expensive. Now, my numbers might be old. Maybe some of you have more recent numbers, but I have heard it can be up to like 2,200 to 5,000 per employee. Would love to know if that's current or not. If anybody knows, share in the chat, please. Now, a lot of what I do, I show and tell you all about a tool called the Artifacts of Culture Change. It came out in 2006. Someone did the math. That's a while ago. And I was very blessed, honestly, to be a subcontractor with CMS and got to co-develop this tool. And it came out in 2006. And how many of you ever knew about it? Not too many, sadly. But good news, over COVID, believe it or not, we got a big grant and we developed an Artifacts 2.0. And so we've been using it quite a bit in this Wyoming Culture Change project. And whenever I get to teach, I tend to tell you about it. And I tend to also show you that a lot of these culture change practices are in the Artifacts tool. And, vice versa, like when I'm talking about a practice, I want you to see it is considered a practice of the movement, so much so it landed in the tool. And this tool can be used by any of you. I should have put the link there. Brittany, would you be so kind? Brittany is like the associate director. And she does everything anyone needs help with. Thank you, Brittany. Pioneer Network. Brittany, if you wouldn't mind going to the Artifacts page and share that link, please, with everyone. Yep. There's also an Artifacts for assisted living, everybody. That's kind of new. That never was before. And it just deleted only a few items that were more required in a nursing home that aren't required in an assisted living. So I'm going to focus on some from the tool that have to do with a section called leadership and team member engagement. Surprise. And this is funny. I just realized artifact number 134 is the very last one. Isn't that funny? And so now you know how many there are. Don't let 134 scare you. Let it empower you. You might have some of them already. And Brittany can attest to this. She just filled out the Artifacts tool yesterday online, and it spits it out for you. It's not a database yet, but we're trying to get one in Wyoming, everybody. You guys could be the first to perhaps showcase the beautiful things that are done in nursing homes, because sadly, the survey process doesn't show the beautiful things you do. And I'd love your help with that. If you're supportive of that. We are talking about getting some state, why not Wyoming, to create the very first, perhaps we could think of it as a voluntary star, like the 5-star, but voluntary. And it again showcases beautiful things, who does what. Anyway, we're starting off with employee council. Notice the way it reads, there is an employee council or forum or some equivalent that meets routinely. That's up to you how often, and to do what? Discuss issues, plan things, and provide support. So I'd like for you to start thinking about that. Do you have that or not? Would you like to have that? You could have that. To plan events, why not? Get more people involved, the people who work there, to obviously identify needs. We have resident council. Some of you are calling it community council now. I think it makes sense. Why didn't we always have an employee council? They have needs as well. And then issues come up for employees that are different than those issues, I suppose, for people who live there. And so here comes an example. You're going to hear from someone soon here that one of my favorites is to work on a culture where staff could actually bring their children with them if they needed to, maybe in emergencies, or to start welcoming. Think of your staffing crunches right now, everyone. If I was you, this is something I would figure out as a team. How could we be more welcoming of kids? Certainly, fine, start with certain ages. Maybe you can't have toddlers running around. I get that, but maybe someone could bring their baby because they're not running around. I've heard that. I'll show you a picture. And maybe there's an age group that they could, I don't want to just say help with activities, but if your culture is open for kids to come and be with elders, be with people, and you guys are all going to work together, make it work, I'll bet you money that'll help your staff retention. And something else we're going to talk about this whole time is the idea of promoting relationship, embracing friendship, talking out loud that it's okay to be friends with people at work. We want you to be. It's okay to be friends, people who work here and live here. It's so sad to me in healthcare. We've been lied to. You've all heard the lie. The lie is don't get too close and keep a professional distance, right? And the reason I say that's a lie is because we're all people. Of course, you're going to get close to some. Of course, you're going to be friends with some, but not everyone. It's normal. We got to embrace normal. And Desiree Bishop, are you here, my friend? We're going to hear from Desiree. Hi, Desiree.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, Desiree is, let's see. Hang on. Ooh, something weird happened. Okay. Desiree, are you showing yourself? Can you? We'd love to see you.
Let's see here.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on.
So everyone, we've asked Desiree to speak to a form of an employee council and some experience she's had at the Cheyenne VA Community Living Center. And I've got a few slides to go with you here, Desiree. We used the same ones last time. Welcome.
Okay.
Appreciate you being here.
So I'm speaking on an employee-driven council today. I took over this position just over 2 years ago and kind of inherited a culture that was, apathetic in a lot of ways, as far as staff just not getting engaged, not feeling like they had a say, always waiting for that other shoe to drop. And we've worked really hard to change this. I actually wrote this for last year, and I would say I've continued to see some growth through this. So our goal was, why would we do a council in the first place? We didn't have a governance council. The VA has a nurse practice council that's over the entire facility, to which we are linked to the medical center, but we kind of operate pretty much autonomously, even though we're connected. And our goal really was to come out of this with increased engagement, increased job satisfaction, obviously lower turnover, improving safety for both our veterans and for staff. Also to get more buy-in from staff and have more staff-directed change versus me telling them what to do. Also kind of working on that shared leadership, because there is a lot of research that shows that can really effectively change culture. Also looking, improving non-survey, which of course we all are concerned about, and improve staffing.
Great.
So next slide. So when we came to develop this, because this was brand new, we actually I went out and did a lot of research on organizations that already have councils. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. If you're seriously interested in this, I looked at several different places, large medical centers, all the way down to small community hospitals that had employee councils, and kind of picked and chose what really spoke to our situation. Where all of us are a little bit unique in what we need or what our employees want. And so we really went through and we actually drafted a charter. And so for this, then the charter pretty much drove, how often were they going to meet? What was going to be essentially their directive? They still operate under management, obviously, as far as all the ideas that they have, then they collaborate with management to put in place. So it described the process by which they would do that. It described, obviously, it is a council. So there is a chair, there is a co-chair, there's a secretary. There's someone that helps drive the progress and drive those projects. So you don't just have a group of people coming together to chat, but they're actually making improvements. Management, I helped them develop the charter and get them started. And then I really stepped back. I don't attend their meetings. They do send me minutes, essentially to say, this is what they're meeting on. These are the kind of projects they're working on, partly because as an organization, then we're willing to pay them overtime in order to have them come in on their off time and do this. So they do provide me with documentation in that respect, but I don't provide any feedback until they're ready to present to me as far as, these are the ideas I have and these are the directions we want to go. So I don't lead any decision making. They drive what is important to them. One of the big things that we did was they've taken on employee morale as a big topic for themselves. And so there's actually a little employee morale subcommittee where they handed out Valentine's cards to all the staff, or they had a Valentine cookie exchange. They all brought in treats for Christmas and homemade treats, and kind of mixed everything up and then gave them to different staff members. And so they've worked on that. They've also put together, as far as the patient side of things, they worked on streamlining patient waits, as far as having a reliable, consistent process where waits were done at the same time every day, using the same scale. Obviously, on a busy unit, when you have lots of people going on, sometimes that's hard to maintain. And yet for a lot of our veterans here that have heart problems and stuff, it's really important that we stick with a reliable and consistent way to measure weight. And so they worked on a workflow that they developed, as far as, instead of me coming in and saying, hey, this is the way it's going to work, and them grumbling because maybe they're like, we already know that's not going to work because this workflow for some reason or other won't adapt to what we do every day. So they really drove that change, as far as they, developed a Teams chat that they could then, input the weight of the wheelchairs and then the weight with the veteran and all this stuff. So they actually did a lot of legwork on it. I think managers sometimes think that maybe it would take away or interfere with some of the things we have to do. And I would say that's not true. Again, it all does filter through me, just because there is a bureaucracy in the sense of, ensuring that we meet CMS standards, or, whatever. For us, it's actually Long-Term Care Institute, but, that we're meeting the organization's objectives as well. And so I kind of provide that filter. As far as when they bring things to me, then I sometimes will say, okay, this is great, but we need to consider this aspect. And so they then will, take that back and try to develop that. So it's actually been a great collaborative effort with staff. And I think we've seen a lot of improvement over the last couple years as far as staff buy-in. We've seen the membership to the council increase. And again, I think, you can't just turn this over and think that they're going to do all the work. Management still has to have as much buy-in as they do, as far as seeing the value of this, and again, being enthusiastic. None of us believe if someone else doesn't believe. It kind of is a group effort. And so, we've seen a lot of luck with it here at the Cheyenne VA. We're actually the only operational council outside of the Nurse Practice Council, but our success then has made other units look at, potentially this is a method they could adopt. Next slide.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, we developed our charter in January of 21. So we actually ran this in the middle of COVID. They still continue to meet monthly, and they have several different projects and kind of subcommittees. They kind of, I have basically there's every tours representative. I have RNs, I have CNAs on it. And really then each member then has often brought a concern or something that they think they need to work on, and will often find a partner, and they'll kind of work on their special projects to present to the whole council. So laundry issues, we had some issues with that as far as veteran getting their laundry, division of labor between tours. And so a couple of them actually got together and wrote up kind of an SOP with, and took that to the board and then brought that to me as far as how could we make this more efficient, still get what we needed done, but not overburden any one particular group. Like I said, the council then reports to me and my assistant as far as, the ideas they're working on, how to implement. Sometimes it's a matter of, they're talking to me because maybe they need funding or maybe they need equipment, which of course I then try to procure. Sometimes it is a matter of just, okay, it's the government as far as the VA. Sometimes there's some bureaucracy involved. What do we need to do to cut through the red tape? So sometimes that is some of the support I provide, is just, kind of clearing the way for some of their ideas. They do also report quarterly to the Nurse Practice Council. That's kind of seen as their overseeing body. So they do report up to the council then that oversees the shared governance for the facility. And like I said, you've seen some interest in the inpatient units then starting to develop this program. And we really have seen increased staff engagement and empowerment on the unit as far as not seeing that management needs to come up with these ideas, that they can really bring their own solutions back.
Beautiful.
And
Hey,
next
Desiree,
slide.
we got 2 questions for you. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, I think we got it, actually. 2 questions, Desiree. Number 1, how many are on this council of yours?
So right now memberships is sitting at around 10, which I have about 50 staff.
Okay, good. People are wondering. And when you say Nurse Practice Council, I'm sorry, my brain goes, what is that and where is that? Is that within the VA maybe?
It is.
Okay.
So it's basically the shared governance structure within the VA. So the Nurse Practice Council for the VA essentially reviews all nursing related policies, and kind of changes within the nursing structure as far as patient education and that kind of stuff. So, and it oversees the entire facility. So any nursing specific policies, then they revise, they approve. And so they're kind of like the quality control and the shared governance on the nursing side for the VA. And essentially ours then, because councils in the VA have to report to somebody, that's just the requirement. And they technically don't report to me as far as other than when they're ready to do a project. So that part, as far as their support, comes from the Nurse Practice Council.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Well, I'm going to keep going. Desiree, thank you so much. And you heard Desiree say she did this last year. We did this last year, but it's part of the grant to actually repeat some of the same topics to help those topics get heard more. It takes time. There's so many things you all could do. So I hope it's helpful, even if maybe you saw it last year. Also, I'm going to show a clip next, a person who works in Colorado. You'll hear about their journey, creating an employee council, and some really unique things that they ended up doing. I'll just play it. Well, hello, Michelle Bernal. Welcome, and thank you so much for being so kind to teach us what you know about employee councils. So everyone, Michelle, can you please give your history, your title, where you work, and then we'll just jump in. Tell us about your employee council, please? Thank you.
Sure. So I'm Michelle. I work here at Cherry Creek Nursing Center. Currently, I work as the payroll AP coordinator, but I also previously have worked here as a social worker and as a CNA. So I've had a little bit of background in different areas, and I'm kind of using the knowledge and experience in each of those areas to continue moving forward and seeing what I can learn and engage from other staff and residents to make changes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so we started our employee council probably about 2 years ago, and we get together every month. We try to get together every month. Sometimes people's schedules kind of fluctuate, and so that does change. But we get together every month with the intent of discussing any questions or concerns that staff might have, addressing any needs of the staff, and also to plan employee appreciation events. So some of the employee appreciation events we've had before, we set up like a large baked potato bar and just had different toppings. So staff could come in, they can pick their baked potato, pick different toppings, pick some different goodies and drinks and things like that. And the leadership team help hands those out so that the employees know that we do appreciate them, because sometimes just hearing a simple thank you can make a really big difference in people's day.
Wonderful. Hey,
yeah.
Michelle, what are some other things you've done besides the baked potato bar? I bet there are numerous.
Oh yeah, so we've done walking taco bars, we've done coffee bars. The iced coffee bars seem to be a really big hit. We had a DON whose family owned an ice cream truck. And so they brought the ice cream truck out front, and we let all the employees and residents pick whatever kind of ice cream, they wanted. And so that was pretty cool. And so, yeah, just different things. I usually go around and I ask the staff, or I put up a flyer that says, hey, we want to do something for employee appreciation. What kind of goodies are you guys feeling like enjoying this time? We've had people say, well, we want something healthy this week. So we've done parfaits and salad bars, or we just want sweets. And so we did a whole smorgasbord of different treats and brownies and cinnamon rolls and cookies and things like that. So yeah.
It's my understanding, Michelle, in talking to you and Reem, that you really do a lot of asking. What do you need and what do you want? Is that true?
Yes.
A lot of asking. That's a good. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in just asking people. I feel like everyone has different opinions and different thoughts, and what I feel might fit better isn't always going to be the case for everybody. My desires and my preferences are different than other people's, and so I feel strongly that asking people what their preferences are and having different ideas, especially because our facility is so culturally diverse, is really beneficial to what our purpose is and what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Good. Nice job. Preferences. Preferences show up in the regs for residents more than ever before, and you're reflecting that with the people who work there. Nice job.
Yeah, and I have very strong preferences, especially when it comes to things like food, and so I know if it might not work for me, it might not work for someone else. So yeah,
that's beautiful. How about pros and cons, Michelle? If I were to ask, what are some pros? What are some cons, if there are any, for employee council?
So one of the things that we've started to do within the last couple months is our facility does Pinnacle survey reviews every, I want to say quarter, and we go through those together as a leadership team and as the employee council team. So whether the comments are good or bad, we review them. And we use those as our opportunities for improvement, our opportunities for growth. So if there are things that people have concerns about, we look at that and we say, well, what can we do to help foster more improvement in those situations? So that's very beneficial. I think that that's a pro, is being able to sit down as a team and look at the things we've done well and the things we've done wrong, because it's important to understand how to change what we're doing, what we don't feel we're doing right, or what other people don't feel we're doing right. The only con, I think, to that is that sometimes staff don't want to engage in the meetings. And so I think having a larger group with staff of different variations and different, more variations in departments would be more beneficial as well, because we do have, our business office comes, social work, our leadership team, and just having more nursing staff available that would like to join in would be better.
And Michelle, you mentioned employee council team. So is there really a council and is there really a team, or are we talking the same thing?
It's the same thing. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Our employee council, we're working together. We're working cohesively for the same goal. And so that's why I say team a lot. It's all cohesive for the same outcome is what we're looking for.
So Michelle, in my mind, like, how there's resident council and anyone can come?
Yes.
Do you do that? Like, we're having an employee council meeting for all employees who can come, but then there's also a leadership team, kind of like a resident council officers
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have done that in the past. Through COVID, it was a little bit harder because it was harder to have, more people in the building and everybody in the same room. And so we're starting to open it back up to having it focused on with leadership, and then having larger availability for all of the staff as well. One of the things I know that we had talked about previously was just increasing our communication outwards. And so we have a system called Voice Friend that sends text messages or phone calls out to whoever we selected to go out to. And so we, can send out messages to all the staff just saying, hey, we're having this meeting at this time. Please feel free to join us, so that we can, communicate and have a better flow and more ideas.
Also, Michelle, I get this question too sometimes. Do you vary the times when you meet so people from different shifts can come?
Yes, we try to do that with all of our meetings in the building in general. Is everyone's shifts are different. We're a 24-hour care facility, and so we have people that come from 6 to 2 and people who come from 2 to 10 and 10 to 6. And so we try to do some in the morning, or the next month we might do it later in the afternoon, so that different people can come if they have the availability.
So when do night shift people come? If they come, is it one of the early morning or late afternoon?
Usually if the night shift does come, they come early in the morning to the morning ones. Yeah.
That works. Okay. And then how about lessons learned in your 2 years? If you were to give, what else, if you were to encourage a nursing home team listening to whether or not to do an employee council, what would you give them?
I would just say definitely continue to advocate for more staff to be a part of it, more of your staff to provide feedback. And I think encouraging open voice. A lot of times people are afraid to, they might not afraid, but maybe a little hesitant to say what they are feeling or what they heard or observed from staff. And this is one of those platforms to really be able to do that, because like I tell people, we can't make a change if we don't know what we're doing wrong. We can't make things better if we don't know what we're doing wrong, just like anything in our lives. And so if people use their voice and they speak up, whether it's on their own behalf or on someone else's behalf or on a smaller group's behalf, it's really beneficial. And so I think just really encouraging all of your staff to be a part of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Michelle, I have a kind of like a deeper level question. I'm intrigued by this question myself. As you know about culture change, we work together, and a leader in the culture change movement challenged me by saying, in their opinion, employee councils are not necessary because in their very changed culture, they involve employees on every level, wherever decisions are being made, and that is part of the movement to flatten management and to get more people who both live there and work at all levels. I hate the word level, but people who work with residents themselves, they know stuff that maybe management doesn't. So that idea of flattening. And I guess if that culture can do that, great. and so it's interesting to me, a friend of mine says there should be no need for an employee council. But I wonder if there is a need in some situations, if that's not happening. You represent a large community. How many people live there? And remind people how big it is. And then what do you think of that comment? please?
Sure. So our facility, our home, we can have up to 216 residents living with us here. And then we also have our staff, which, you know, for Cherry Creek itself, we have about 200 employees. But then we also, in our employee council and in our employee appreciation, we include our contracted companies, which is our therapy teams, our dietary team, and our housekeeping laundry team. So as a whole, it's about 300 plus employees. So we are very big, but it's important, I think, that we include everybody because we spend a lot of time here together. Almost, you know, a lot of times in our jobs, we spend more time doing that than with our families. So we really become a family. And so, you know, you want to keep that work-life balance for people, but you also want to provide a space where people can feel comfortable, but also still do their work, get the job done, but also making sure that we are comfortable, people feel safe, people want to continue being here and sharing their passion and continuing to drive for that. So, but in the context of the question, I think that employee councils can be beneficial. I think that, of course, it's hard for companies to think about merging departments. A lot of times we do have silos in different places that we work, you know, so your leadership team and then everybody else. But I think that one of the struggles that a lot of places have is communication. The staff the staff that work closer to the residents are always going to know more than the leadership team does. That's a given. The residents talk, staff talks, it's a given. But when you can have that easy flow of communication as a whole, that can be very beneficial. And so maybe in an industry or maybe in a facility where there isn't that gap and where everybody has that consistent flow of communication, the same level flow of communication all the time, an employee council wouldn't necessarily be beneficial or help anymore. But I think for facilities that are working to get there, it would be really helpful to have an employee council, so that staff can feel comfortable communicating on all levels with anybody in the building.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so, you know, there it is. Every team is different, every culture, every community, the size, and it's ours to decide, right?
Yeah, and I think that having such a diverse community, that's one of the benefits of Cherry Creek, is we do have such a diverse community of residents and staff. And so our employee council having that idea and being able to communicate back and forth, well, you know, culturally this is how things look and this culture sees things this way. And so being able to cohesively put those together and have that breeze in diversity is helpful.
Yeah, you bet that. Well, hey, Michelle, keep up the good work. I really appreciate you sharing. I'll let you know if I get any questions, if that's okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I have to speed through everyone, and I just want to highlight that one of my favorite things they did there was bring your child to work day. Oh my gosh, you could do that. How fun is that? That'd be like a nice entry into considering doing more with people's kids, perhaps. Probably all of you have some sort of kudos board, kudos comment board. One home in your state, the resident council president does shout outs periodically to team members that they're thanking for certain things. And then this employee council also did the filling of backpacks at the start of school, bringing kids into it again. And you heard me say in that some people contend you don't need an employee council. I'd love for you to think about that. Do you? Do you have employees really engaged in other ways that you wouldn't need one? Or could this really fit a need? And so now we roll through some other ways to engage people. Many of you have heard of community meetings. I don't have time to give it justice. We've done full webinars on them, but I want you to hear that some nursing homes around the country actually get together, have a gathering every single day. That's actually what we recommend. And at this gathering, notice the word, it's a better word than meeting. We've realized people just really work on getting to know each other better, having fun together, celebrating things together, talking about problems together, coming up with solutions together, finding a song that they like to sing together. And notice we're talking all staff members, all, we don't just want certain ones, all are welcome, and all residents. That's the idea of community. I just personally, if I was you, this would be high on my list to build community, build relationship, build a sense of belonging, and build that communication. It can be used for everything. It's so good. And you could start weekly, you could start monthly if you need to start somewhere. It's a big, considered a large part of our movement. Here comes another one. I love this too. Staff actually, I should say, people who work there actually are welcome to dine with the people who live there. I remember in all my years, one time years ago, a sign in the dining room that said, staff may not eat with residents in the dining room. And I was a surveyor and I practically cried because I thought, really? Have we come this far that there would be a sign? We trust the CNAs with someone alone in the bathroom. Why can't we eat together? This is ridiculous. And so hopefully that is not part of your culture. And many homes I've worked with, this is so beautiful. You'll hear next month, Life Care of Casper. There are others, Wyoming Retirement. This is happening. So team members sit down and dine and we build relationship. One of the core values of our movement is this: relationship is the fundamental building block of a transformed culture. And years ago, this home in Denver put out a continental breakfast, and they said to all team members working there, you are welcome to have breakfast on us. And we want you to sit down. Please don't go to the staff, area. But the idea here is to also dine with and build relationship and get to know each other better and to just have it feel more like a home and a family. Here's another story. A colleague of mine that I dearly look up to started the Wednesday buffet, and anyone working on Wednesday was welcome to eat with residents. Again, eat on the house. That's a beautiful gift to your employees. And look at this, the kitchen staff. I am trying not to say that. People who work in the kitchen come out of the kitchen. How do you like that? And they interact more. This is a key to changing culture, by the way. And team members go get the food for themselves and the people who live there, unless those people can come get it themselves. And look at this. Oh, I love this. I was there. I wish I had a video because it was noisy, everyone. It wasn't quiet. Think about sitting with the same people every day, 3 times a day at the same table. Darn it. We're bound to run out of things to talk about unless you help them have topics to talk about. And it was noisy. And the noise was good noise. It was a buzz of conversation. And so if you aren't ready to dine yet, maybe start small with just a cup of coffee. Start to tell your team members, it's okay. It's okay. You have permission. You won't get in trouble. Just start to talk about it. Make it work. Talk about people's worries. Talk about people's myths. I thought we couldn't do that, etc. And there's the baby that came to work with the activity director for an entire year because she just pushed her around in the stroller. People took care of her. Residents came alive that used to not talk. Of course they did, right? So then if you don't have a career ladder, another beautiful practice is a career ladder for CNAs, that idea of a lead CNA. That has helped many cultures in many ways. It gives a CNA something to maybe shoot for. We used to say job development, the next one. And we used to give examples like CNA to RN or LPN to RN, CNA to LPN to RN. And then we realized we don't mean to imply a CNA should do that. So we just changed it to home actually helps any staff member further their education. So maybe you're flexible to go into school, or you offer scholarships, or who knows what else. Now, this might be different for a lot of you, but believe it or not, it's a culture change practice to simply start saying you don't have to wear the medical clothing if you don't want to. You don't have to wear the scrubs every day if you don't want to. And I know that's kind of new and big for some of you to hear, maybe for the first time, but medical clothing makes it a medical culture, and normal clothing makes it normal. Those are 3 nurse leaders that I asked, could I please take your picture? Because at that same home, Cherry Creek, we worked on this. And yep, I know I probably know what you're all thinking, a variety. Some people think, but I want to wear my scrubs. Notice you could just start with making it okay not to if you don't want to. And, some days I need to wear it, fine. Or maybe I need to every day, fine. But if you don't need to and you don't want to, and you like wearing your own clothes, a lot of people show their personality through the clothes they wear. And is there a dress code? Of course, just like if you worked at a bank, right? There's a dress code. And so it can really do a lot to change culture. The next one is cross training. This is a mark of our movement to do a lot of cross training. And I think maybe we've seen some of that, but we saw it before COVID, and I highly recommend it after COVID. Getting more and more people trained as CNAs is key. I was the activity director. If I went back, I want to be a CNA. We have administrators becoming CNAs before COVID. Why? Because they love being able to help people. How silly is it for us to go, oh, let me go find someone for you? That is silly. That is a waste of time, everybody. Sometimes, the administrator can't help everyone to the bathroom, but there may be a point in time where just helping someone to the bathroom does make more sense than running around trying to find the few that do. Something to consider. It can really change a culture. And I would encourage some of you to just go do it. Be a leader. This is what we've learned in the movement. Leaders are role models, and leaders go do stuff all on their own. If I was with you all, I would just say, I need your help to get to class to become a CNA. I'm ready. And I want to be more available to serve people. And then notice how that enriches the culture. We can all help each other more. Residents get even better life than when only certain people can do certain things. Let's see, team meetings are held daily. So the idea of huddles, you don't have to call it huddle, but I think personally the word huddle is kind of a softer word, more fun. Kind of implies it's important but fast, So if you don't have shift huddles, you could. If you don't have a morning team huddle, you could. I've seen leadership go to the different neighborhoods. Maybe the DON goes to this neighborhood today and shares whatever the administrator's sharing at the next neighborhood. It's a lovely way to share information. And now you can tell the administrator or DON or whomever, hey, there's a wheelchair broken. Like, it's just better communication. You can have post-incident huddles, post-fall huddle, a performance improvement project huddle. Infections are up on one neighborhood. We don't want that. We're going to have a huddle right now. You can have a huddle for anything. And I just want to point out, this kind of an idea costs no money and actually, is worth a lot of money, right? So then we have the learning circle. This is also precious, everyone. If you haven't tried it, I don't have time to give it justice, but a couple things make it really special. You always use a circle, because in a circle we are equal and we can see each other, and you never have a table in between, and you ask who would like to go first. It's voluntary. You pose something. I would recommend you just start with getting to know each other better. It really does wonders, right? To learn stuff about each other you just didn't know. Have fun. Where were you born? What's your favorite this or that? And then move into solving problems. You will probably solve problems quicker by doing a circle and hearing from everyone than any other way, I think, to be honest. It's just powerful. People can pass, they don't have to speak up. And probably all together, you're going to build on each other. You wait till everyone share. That's why it's called a learning circle. You don't interrupt each other. And then you talk. Some other neat things. You could be mentors to one another. If you don't do mentorship, people who have worked there for a while could be mentors to new people who come to work there. You could also have the people who live there, like an elder mentor to a new team member. How cool would that be? A proactive way to promote relationship. Did you know that older adults did better when they thought about how they coped with hardships before, and they, when you think about how you've coped before, it helps you to cope now. So that's what older people have to give us to help us cope with hard things. In fact, one home in Colorado did this very intentionally. At every resident council, the DON would say, "Hey, residents, hey, you that live here, don't forget to care for the people who work here as much as they're caring for you." And I have a beautiful story. I call it the full circle of relationship. That same DON, her mother passed away one summer. And I saw her in October and she said, "You know what, Carmen? 2 residents, maybe 3, still check on me every morning in October after my mom died this summer." And I believe it's the full circle of relationship that she created herself. Don't forget to care for each other. Another neat quote: "Those who serve our national treasures are themselves treasures." Did you know that what matters most to employees in the data is help with stress and burnout, being cared about, being listened to? Yes, safe. We talk a lot about safety. I think we could talk about the other stuff a little more. You're shown appreciation and your supervisor cares about you as a person. In this great book, I highly recommend it, Meeting the Leadership Challenge in Long-Term Care, positive relationships also translate into better care. The quality of relationships we have with each other determines the quality of the care that residents receive. Are you kidding? Isn't that neat? I'd love for someone to do more study on that. Maybe you could. We also see in a big study, if you have good relations with your coworkers, then you have lower burnout risk and you stay longer. It's kind of common sense. Did you know friendships at work will keep people there? When a person's happy, it's estimated that it'll take 30% more money to make them leave. Also, they obviously, if you get along with people you work with, you're probably going to be more successful in your work. And another big survey, being valued and having trusting relationships obviously links to high engagement. And they define that as having a good attitude, favorable toward working there, intending to stay, and even advocate for. You know, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If you work with your friends and you love where you work with the people you work, you're bound to invite other friends to come work with you. Another study about baby boomers at work. So appealing to people 50 and over. If you prioritize their views on wanting to continue to work versus retirement, you'll keep them. If you also help people with wellness, maybe some sort of wellness offering. I don't love the word programming myself, but you know, ways to work on being well and healthy. And then fostering an age-friendly, let's say all ages friendly workplace. So all ages are viewed as an asset instead of any liability in any way. And then another study, direct care worker survey. I'll just look at the highlighted thing. Consider elevating existing opportunities for advancement and innovate new ones. That will keep people, right? If some people want to keep moving up, keep trying new things. 21% were unsatisfied with advancement. 29% were likely to leave, compared to just 6% that were satisfied with what they did have for advancing. Inadequate supervision. Isn't that interesting? Inadequate supervision gets associated with higher intention to leave. 19% of those who said supervisors rarely provided positive reinforcement had higher intent to leave than those who got positive feedback more frequently. So things to think about: how supportive are your supervisory practices? If you've never heard this, I've heard this my whole career. People don't leave their job, they leave their supervisor. 61% said they need additional training in at least one topic. Yeah, don't we all? Consider leveraging partnerships with trainers to widely disseminate training and consider doing a questionnaire to all your team to ask what training they feel they need. I would love to ask you all, what do you see in your data? What are employees telling you? And here's one of the most favorite thing I've ever learned from the Eden Alternative. If you go through the Eden Alternative training, you will run into this. And they'll ask you, even on a scale, like we could say 1 to 10, 1 is cold, 10 is warm. What is your culture? Is it cold or is it warm? How do departments, how do shifts treat each other? Those, I don't personally, in the culture change movement, we've moved on from departments to talking about teams, but you know, these silos you heard Michelle talk about, how do they treat each other? How do shifts treat each other? Are we for each other or are we against each other? And they said one of the best ways to warm up a culture is to teach everyone what a mitzvah is. So from the Jewish culture, a mitzvah is doing a kindness to someone else that is kept secret. No one ever knows it was you. No one. You can't tell anyone. So I've thought a lot about this, you guys. You're in a blizzard, right? What if somebody went out there and shoveled off your car for you? How would you feel? and then you're like, you know, if I did it and I said, hey, Katie, I shoveled your car off for you, you would say thank you. And it'd just be between us. But let's say you didn't know who did it and you go home and like, oh my gosh, somebody got the snow off my truck for me. I don't even know who. Isn't that amazing? See how it warms up a culture? So you all could do that. So I'm almost done. Let me advertise our next webinar next month is a big deal. You're going to hear from 3 homes that were in the second year of our culture change project. So Life Care of Casper, Wyoming Retirement Center, Westward Heights. Wait till you hear their stories. You cannot miss it. I am almost speechless for all the things, beautiful culture that's been changed. And please invite lots of people. Please share these links with everybody. Share the recording link with everybody. One of our big audacious goals is to get everyone working in a Wyoming nursing home educated on culture change. And another goal is to actually see if someday anyone living in a Wyoming nursing home is not woken up by the institutional schedule and they wake up naturally. Institutional words we're trying to get rid of. I mentioned staff. I'm curious if any of you said anything about that. Just gonna check real quick. Not yet. That's okay. I'm gonna get to comments here in a minute. But the word staff, people have taught me, is just kind of blah, you know, staff. What does it really mean? And I think there's a temptation to say my staff. You know, beware of that. My staff, my girls, my residents. Really? Are they? I had an activity director once call me my assistant, and I wasn't proud to be her assistant. And that's where I started to, you know, think about language. So some other words that people use: team member. You heard maybe care partner. Eden uses that. Personally, I think if we can also get away from saying care all the time, but the idea of partners is beautiful. They say care, elder care partner, employee care partner, family care partner. We're on the right track, you know, we're all equal and we all do care about this person. I know it's wordy, but I often just talk about the people who work here and the people who live here. New language is awkward, I'll tell you that. And then I wanted to, since we're talking about employee stuff today, I wanted to share with you the word in service and wondered what you think of it. And where I kind of see it going negative is particularly in a plan of correction. We always say, oh, we in service the staff. And is that positive or negative? And so other people have really taught me all this. What's more normal? What do adults really do? They take in education. They like to grow and learn instead of you know what it is? It's always an insinuation that people are in trouble, right? So you might consider doing a word of the week or a word of the month. And you'll learn more about what teams did next month. And we're trying to get rid of that word facility. If you'd like to join us, we kind of have fun calling it the F word. If you like that to draw attention to it, you don't have to. But just think of the word facility. It has nothing to do with home. And this is people's home. And that once you start really shifting your view, everything changes. So calling it a home, a community, just refer to the name of the place. You know, we're trying to move away from patient, even resident, because why? They're a person first. You and I are a person first. We're always a person, even if we're a patient of a hospital. And an administrator friend of mine says resident. Oh, I hate that word. He goes, that guy was a person way before he was a resident of a nursing home. I just love that. And trying to get rid of labels. Everybody watch each other. What are some labels? There's so many. Feeders, frequent fallers, complainer. Oh my goodness. People deserve better, don't you think? And you don't have to use that harsh word intervention. We're trying to replace it with softer words, more accurate words, really. Like personally, I love talking about individualized approaches. That's what we mean, or just approaches even. So with that, let's see what thoughts and ideas you have. And someone says, I love the mitzvah idea. So do I. Hey, Brittany, why don't you get on and say, what are you guilty about? And tell people your experience, Brittany, please, where Life Care actually says, hey, employees eat for free. Unless there's someone here from Life Care. Brittany, do you see anyone else?
Tammy's on from Life Care.
Okay, Tammy, can I pick on you or Brittany to talk about what it's like to work in a building that says you can eat for free? Tammy, are you there?
Britt?
Oh,
Hi,
Brittany.
Tammy, go ahead. Well, it's been that way as long as I've been here. So I've been at Life Care for about 1.5 years. And yeah, that's the only way I've known it. So I can't really speak to when it changed. Touche. So that changed, I want to say the year before, like the fall before COVID really ramped up. Carmen Tess had just taken over as our administrator at Life Care.
Yep.
And we were charging staff $2 a meal, and the same as family. And she kind of did away with that, and it grew during COVID because it was so hard to leave. So it just never went away. And then even now up at the vets home, I'm at the Veterans Home of Wyoming in Buffalo. They also started feeding their staff during COVID and have not done away with it because it has improved morale so much to be able to go in and eat. We all go down and eat. Sometimes we have a working lunch, sometimes we go down in the lounge and all eat together, but I know same case in both places. It has done so much for staff because everybody comes together to chat over mealtime. You're tasting the food that you're feeding to your elders, so your food improves. There's nothing bad about it. There just isn't.
And Brittany, what have you heard about money? What does that cost? Other people might be wondering, wait a minute, how do you afford that?
So I could not honestly tell you on either end. I know at Life Care, they always had extra food. They're always putting something in the refrigerator as a leftover. If a ton of people, like if they're going to make ribs for lunch, they know that we're all going to eat. So they make extra. If we had a big group from corporate coming in, we're going to make extra of whatever that meal is because we know they're going to eat with us for lunch. We ask that community members, and if they're going to have a big group of family come in, we ask, hey, if you're having more than 3 people join you, let the kitchen know. That way we can accommodate to make sure we don't run out of food. But for the most part, between the main dish being served and then the alternate meal being served, I don't think they've ever not had at least something to feed everyone.
Wow. Isn't that great, guys? I've heard this my whole career. Why not? Especially rather than throw it away, right?
Yep.
Oh my. And look at that. You heard about improved morale. Well, I'm afraid we're about out of time. Let's see. Can anyone, we have one question about our team members dining with residents now after COVID. And yes, I know Life Care of Casper is everybody. Is anybody else? Oh, Brittany, you guys are
Yep.
as well. Yep. Yep. So
And I
people
know like the new community in Lander is also doing the same because they're a greenhouse.
yeah.
Just like we're getting ready to open, they're also eating with their residents.
Yeah. So depending on what COVID's happening in your building, right? Or other thing, it's just that time of year, right? For flu and such. All right. Well, I think we got to all the questions and comments, and I'll just close with this. Go to the people who work there. You've heard some great ideas today. Talk, 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 talk. So Taya, you're listening. She says, I like to talk. I've learned so much from that. The more we talk to one another, the more we learn. And we learn what people need and we learn their ideas. Maybe consider an employee council. I'm not trying to push it. I just think it might have a place that might serve a nice niche. If you're not doing it, you could try it, at least talk about it. And also ways to build relationship and friendship. And if you want to join us in changing language, please do. And join us in this Wyoming Culture Change Coalition. We're doing a lot of great things. Join. I only have room for 3 homes. Whoever applies first for year 3. And I just want to close with, please consider talking more about life, the life people are living, than just the care they're receiving. What do you think? And let's talk more about life and living and home and normal. And it's going to change things. It is. Wyoming, you got some really neat things happening. So I sure thank you all. Thanks for joining me today.
Bye, guys.
Survive the snow. Oh, this is so fun. Someone said we're having the most snow than we've ever had since 1983. And I happen to bring up the mitzvah, right, of going to take the snow off someone's car. That's funny. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Real.
Yep. Thanks for your help, Brittany. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.